I've got a couple of questions for you. First, and primary, since we're talking about technology, how do you balance your tech time with family time or your children's needs? I see that as one of the critical issues for technology these days. It's advancing so quickly and so many things that it can really be a time sucker.
Yeah, I know. That's such an important topic to have. Well, I use Office 365 Home Premium, and I use that all the tools to help planning and help with basically organization for my family. And my book is about project planning. So I say spend the time, set up a system, and use technology to do that. But then once you set it up, put it aside and then plan for family time and live in the moment. And so I think that needs to be really set up from the beginning, have family rules in regards to what's the time where technology is okay versus what's family time.
Hmm. Now, oftentimes, and because you have a blog and you Twitter, sometimes you don't have control over those times. Let's say, do you do Twitter parties?
Yeah, yeah. Do you do Twitter parties as well?
and that can be a real issue, especially like with kids home from school, and you don't have control over that time. How do you deal with that dilemma?
Well, that's a really good point. And in my book, I talk about when it comes to project planning, it's like looking at the week, and maybe you have a Twitter party, and it's during dinner time, which is the busiest time of the night, right? One thing that you can use is I use Microsoft's OneNote. It's a digital notebook. So I have the meal planning done on OneNote, and my husband has OneNote on his phone, and he can go to the store and has a shopping list and go shopping for me. So I'm using OneNote as my technology tool. But then it's still during dinner. So the other piece of it is some delegation. If you look at the week and you see you have a Twitter party during dinner, maybe that's a time you can have some help, or maybe switch with another family, have a play date. So I try to say if there's a time where you feel like you need to be at two places at once, look at that and try to put a delegation plan in order so you can make sure you're planning for both.
Okay. Are your kids pretty respectful of the time that you have to spend doing those things?
Well, I think it's a challenge, and it's another thing I suggest in my book is setting up a communication plan. So it's something that we talk about on a regular basis. And it's good to empathize with your kids, right? Because we all are attracted to technology, right? And so don't you feel like it helps a little bit? And in my book, I say communication plan means setting a time aside to talk. And maybe you say, I understand that you want to use technology, but this is family time now. So what do you think about that? Is that a big challenge for you?
Well, my kids are still young enough that I can control that a little bit more, but they're getting to that age where it's becoming an issue. But I find because of what I have to do when they're in school, it's not as big a problem. But now that they're home for summer, it's just scheduling the time that I have to do my chores, my technology chores, and keeping them occupied.
Right. And then, I use Outlook for my family calendar. I think the family calendar, managing that is the most important thing. And I have everything color coded. And I know your kids are younger, but maybe that's a time where you can actually look ahead and say, summer, what kind of things do you think my kids like to do? And you can actually put a plan together where you're visiting all of these different places. And if you plan it ahead of time, maybe you can find other families that you can, go to these events, or maybe sign up for summer camp.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, tell me, what do you feel is the best way to get started with the basics on this? If it's an unfamiliar program, just dive right in, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, the good thing about Office 365 Home Premium is it's really easy to use, and you can install it in 5 devices in your family, so everyone has it, which helps when you're putting a plan in place. And start out picking the most top priority. Maybe the family calendar's the top priority, and if that's the case, use Outlook to plan your calendar. Or maybe if you feel like, I have a lot of different notes I need to take and menus to plan for, maybe that's a time to try OneNote, where you're putting everything together in one place and creating notebooks to stay organized. And also, the whole thing about the cloud is like magic. And so I use SkyDrive and the Office web apps, and it's a great tool for basically having access to your documents wherever you go, and that can be really helpful too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Tell me, what advice do you have for some of the older moms, the between generation, where technology is is new to them, and they have a harder time. The younger moms, they've grown up with it, and when new things come along. But what about the older moms that want to be more tech savvy, but it's a stretch. It's a huge learning curve, and there's a lot of frustration. What recommendations might you have for them?
That's a really good point. I have 3 tips for that. The first tip is to figure out, instead of looking at all the cool, hot technology, figure out the process. What things do they need to use technology for? Look at their life and ways that they need to improve things. Once they figure out where they need to use technology, and then you can start applying the technology that matches that. And again, for me, Office 365 Home Premium is really easy to use. I think that's a great tool. And the third tip is, I think that because it's an age where the kids are using technology too, like you say, I think everyone should take a step back and do a little education. It's pretty easy. All the sites have information, like Office.com has tips and features and even parental control information. So go to the websites, take the time to look into the technology when it's a calm time, and then you'll be ready for whatever happens.
Calm time, that's a good point.
Yeah, really.
Trying to find that calm time.
If you can find a calm time, right?
Yes. How long have you been running your blog?
I've been running it since 2006.
Okay, so a while. And how long would you say it took for you to build it to the point where you felt like it was an income generator?
Well, that's a really good question. And part of my parent plan in the book, I talk about, finding the business. Blogging for me is a way of community. It's a way of sharing my voice. But find what your business is, and then put a plan together. And when you're looking at it that way, the blog and social media is a great platform to share your voice. And then you apply what your business skills are and put a plan together for how you're going to grow your business. Those two together are pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, one last question. It looks like my time's about up, and this is a real technical question.
Sure.
Tell me more about the soft shoes.
Soft shoes.
I saw that on your blog. I thought, that's great.
Yeah, really. Okay, now, the most important tip I can give to these busy working moms is comfortable shoes, right?
Right.
So, because how often do you sit down during the day, right? Like maybe 2 minutes?
Not, yeah.
1 minute. So I found soft shoes because I go to CES, which is a big computer conference each year. And so basically, those shoes are so comfortable, it keeps me on the move.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is when you're going to conferences, you're on your feet all day and you want to look good. So it's hard. And I have big feet. So.
Yeah, I recommend comfortable shoes, and also any information about Office, just check office.com.
Okay. One other quick question is, how much travel do you do throughout the year, and how does that affect family?
I'm sorry we got to go, but I really would love to carry on this conversation online. That's a great thing about social media.
That's right. Okay, well, it was fun talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.